2 years ago when the Grizzlies were heading into the second round versus the Warriors. Ja Morant, I felt, was at the height of his powers. He had the best regular season of his career. It just looked like it was just going to be promising from that point forward. Now, when they played the Warriors, the Grizzlies were a team that looked like they were on the rise. They had the better record than the Warriors, but the problem in that series was that they were young and dumb and they had inexperience. They made a lot of stupid mistakes throughout that series. They did the typical thing a young team does when they play a veteran team. They let their emotions override their decision making. They also had some bad luck when it came to, I think Dylan Brooks got suspended for like 2 games in that series after what he did to Gary Payton two. I think it was 2 games, so that was a dumb mistake by Dylan Brooks during that time period. And also, they just had bad luck to some degree when Ja Morant got his knee injury in that series. But the hope was and the belief was that Ja Morant and the Grizzlies were on the rise. Ja was a guy that was gonna just take the league by storm. That this was just the beginning. And he was to be feared, along with the Grizzlies, that they were just that young team learning how to be great. And eventually they're just going to get there. And just you expected that they were just going to slowly make even more steps in upcoming years. But that was not the case. The next 2 seasons would be rough for the Grizzlies, starting with Ja Morant. When heading into the 22-23 season, it was marred by a lot of controversy that Ja Morant brought on himself, to be honest. There was that situation that started off against the Indiana Pacers in which his dad got into a confrontation with a few Pacers during the game in which words were exchanged. His dad started this. Ja Morant got upset about this. He had some associates to confront those Pacer players after the game. And allegedly, one of his boys pointed a gun at one of these Pacers players' head, I think. Yeah, it was. And it was like a red light that was flashing. The league investigated it. They didn't jump to a strong conclusion, but it was enough that his one of his close friends was like banned from playing at the Grizzlies, from not playing, from going to the Grizzlies arena for like a year or two, or I think he was permanently banned. I can't remember that, but that just kick-started just a bunch of controversy that Ja Morant would engage in that year. He later on would get in trouble by live streaming himself on IG at a strip club in which he flashed a gun at the strip club, which by NBA rules is illegal, I believe, that you can't be flashing guns like that. It just is something in their contract or whatnot. The league was upset about that. He looked very stupid in that IG video with all the stacks of paper, just a while, just being around the strippers. He just looked like something out of a movie. The league then suspended him for several games. Ja Morant just responded by saying that he's going to be better. All the other typical bullshit you hear when someone gets caught. He tried to paint an image that he was suffering from like mental health and he was going through a lot, and the league didn't punish him too severely. I think they suspended him for like several games, and he said he got some help from some mental health rehabilitation institute, but that wasn't the end of this. And also, his season would come to an end against the Lakers, in which it was another promising year for the Grizzlies, in which it looked like they should have gone further. I think they were the 3 seed that year, and the Lakers were the 6 seed, I believe. And the Grizzlies ended up losing that series because Ja got hurt. I think he broke his hand or something. I can't remember fully, but he tried to come back in the series to play, but he wasn't effective enough to get them that win. So they ended up losing that series. It was a disappointing year for the Grizzlies, but there was hope that things would get better, that like things would improve, but he ended up getting in trouble again shortly afterwards. I believe in May of that year. Just what happened was he then live streamed again with a friend of his showing a gun, and the league came down hard on him, suspending him for like 25 games in the upcoming season. So last season he was suspended for 25 games. He comes back and he goes on a tear, and everyone thinks that he's going to redeem himself now because he's playing great. He only played for 9 games and he ended up then breaking his shoulder. So Ja has been up and down the last few years with just injuries, controversy off the court, and there are other stuff I've listed he's done off the court with his family. Just that was not a good look at all. Just them harassing business owners in Memphis, him and his boys. Just immature, stupid stuff that really makes him a repugnant person, if we're being honest. Just not a likable guy, a very hateable, just real life villain. And the sad thing about it, I would say with Ja, is that this is a guy who grew up in the suburbs, who was middle class when you read the descriptions, but he's a guy who wants to act like he's like a street gangster, and he's about that life. I've always found it pathetic when people are not secure with their upbringing or who they are, and they try to be something that they're not simply to be cool. That to me is a sign of immaturity once you get outside of high school and college, that you're still trying to get that acceptance instead of being authentic about who you are. And I think Ja still hasn't matured in that department yet. You hope if he's a Grizzlies fan, he'll figure out. But I think the other part about it is that Grizzly fans have to be concerned about his injuries. This guy is very injury prone. The last 3 years he's gotten hurt, and it's been at the worst times. Think about it. Two years ago he got hurt against the Warriors, that right knee. I think it was a knee injury. It was just random. He got hurt in that series and he was out. And then the next season he ended up breaking his hand during the Lakers series. That really hurt them. And then last year he ended up breaking his shoulder. So this guy is very injury prone. That's something you have to be concerned about if you're a Grizzlies fan. Will this guy get hurt again? It's like pick your poison with Ja. Like either he's going to get hurt on the court, or he's going to do something that hurts himself off the court. So he's definitely a wild card. I definitely believe that. Now, with that being said, Ja, when he's healthy, to me, he is probably the fastest player in the league. Just you could argue maybe Tyrese Maxey is faster than him. I think it's very close, but I still think Ja is probably the fastest player in the league. You can make the case maybe he's the most athletic player in the league. He probably has like the best hops vertical in the league, I feel. Just this guy really gets up there. He's a superb athlete, out of this world, just extraordinary when it comes to athletic ability. He relies heavily on that. I think he relies heavily on it, but he's not really that fundamentally sound when you look at his game. I think people have forgotten that aspect of it. This is a guy who does not shoot the ball very well. He's a terrible three-point shooter. Just for his career, he has shot 31% from three. He shot 47% overall from the field. But a lot of his high percentage overall from the field comes from just driving to the hoop, just being able to do ridiculous finishes. He's amazing at that. I feel Ja probably has like the best hang time. I say hang time since Michael Jordan. I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but best hang time since Michael Jordan. And now the way I define hang time is just when Ja drives up in the air, this guy can hang for like more than several seconds, I feel. Like it's like he's up there flying for just a long period of time, that he's able to contort himself to do these ridiculous acrobatic layups or just even dunks. Just the way he can do that going through defenders in midair. I don't think anybody has that hang time currently in the NBA, and I haven't seen it since Michael Jordan, a guy that can hang just like that can just hang in the air for seconds and just change his positioning and contort himself and do these acrobatic plays. That's a gift he has, and it makes it very hard to guard him when he just drives right in the paint. It's very hard to cover him. That's where he's so dominant in that regard. Now, he does lack fundamentals, like I said. He doesn't really have a jump shot, so he has to be a better shooter. I think that's something he has to work on his game. He has to improve on the shooting aspect, because he's not going to be able to rely solely on his athleticism for his whole entire career. So that's something that he should improve on. That's something teams can also hurt him when they force him to shoot jumpers. If they have a good enough defense where they can crowd the paint where he can't get into the paint easily, and force him to go to his jumper. That could hurt him in certain situations, especially during the playoffs when scouts game plan like that. So that's something he has to work on. Now, if everything goes right for the Grizzlies, I do believe they can be a top 3 team in the West. If they remain healthy, they definitely can. They have a really good team from what I've seen this year. Just I not say this year, as a preseason, they look like they're going to be a deep team. Jaren Jackson is back. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a huge part of their team. He's a great defensive player. They have Desmond Baines, who's always been a very good player. They have him, and they're adding some new additions when you look at their team. They got Zach Edey. During preseason, he's looked very good. He might be the steal of this draft. He's another big piece. If he continues to produce like he did, it's a great addition to their team that adds a lot of depth. They have this Japanese rookie that's got my attention. His name is Yuki Kawamura. He looks like he could be a very good backup player off the bench, so it just adds more depth to them. They're also bringing back some pieces from last year, such as Marcus Smart, who's still a very good defensive player. He still has a lot of juice left in him. He's only like 29 or 30, I believe, so he still has several years left. And they just got some depth. They got a good deep team. They're bringing back Scottie Pippen Jr., who had a very solid year last year. He'll be a very good backup to them also. So they got a lot of weapons when you look at this team. They're a very, very deep squad. They just have to remain healthy. But I think it just all hinges back on Ja. Is this guy going to be there mentally when they need him? Will he not get in trouble off the court? Will his mind be in the game? And also, can his body hold up? I think that's something that you have to monitor. He's not a guy that's built like a truck, and the way he plays his game, he's prone to getting another major injury just by the amount of times he drives into the paint, his explosiveness, the pressure he puts on his knees. This guy could get another freak injury very easily. So I think you have to be concerned. It's kind of like he's very unpredictable. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like he operates on like a low power bar, as they would say in like some of these video games. Like his bar is not that big or strong, and that all it takes is a few hits to take him out and he's done. Kind of like in a video game, in like a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat game, his power bar is low, but his moves are very powerful. That's where he's dangerous, but the power bar is low, and it can easily be taken down. So that's the biggest concern with Ja. It's hard for me to say this will be a season of redemption for him. I think it could be, but it comes down to his health and just what he does off the court. If he stays healthy, this team is definitely a top 3 team. I think in the West, to be honest, I think they could definitely be a top 3, top 4 team. So that'll be interesting. But I can't really say which way it's going to go. It's just he's very unpredictable. He's very volatile. That's the way I look at it. So, yeah, that's my opinion about it.